Nikhil with a steal. Left hand tomahawk.
Jackson Hayes.
And that's what Lopez was trying to avoid.
Remember, B.I. just hit a three right before that.
Find the hot hand. They've got it. He's going to the line looking for a 4-point play.
Hot hand in the digest.
Ball, the takeaway with the spin.
Nice.
And the left hand. Good footwork down low.
Welcome in, Pelicans fans, to another edition of Pelicans Preview presented by Smoothie King. I'm Caroline Gonzalez. We are just about an hour away from tip-off inside the NBA bubble. The Pelicans swept their first 3 scrimmage games, and now it is time for the seeding games, and these are the ones that count. Your Pelicans will take on the Utah Jazz tonight at 5:30, and you can catch that game on Fox Sports New Orleans. All right, let's go over where we are in the NBA bubble now that the scrimmages are over. As I mentioned, this evening starts the seeding games, and these are the games that count and are representative of what the team schedules were before the suspension of play. After seeding games, a 2-game play-in series will occur if necessary to determine the number 8 seed in each conference. And then on August 17th, playoffs will begin. The Pelicans have the easiest strength of schedule with only 3 of their 8 seeding games against current playoff teams. Time now to welcome in this afternoon's guest, Pelicans radio analyst, my close personal friend, John DeShazier. JD, you've covered the last 3 scrimmage games for the Pelicans. What are your feelings going into tonight's game as we begin seeding play?
Well, I mean, you'd like to believe they'll be able to have a carryover, but you never know. Just because you practice well, just because you scrimmage well, doesn't mean you're going to be the same team when the lights come on and they start really keeping the score for real. But from what we saw of the Pelicans, they certainly looked like they picked off from where they left off when the season was suspended. But again, you can't really tell if that's going to transpire when you move into the real games. You just don't know. They beat up a couple teams that were somewhat depleted, although the Pelicans were a bit shorthanded themselves, but they really took advantage of the situations. So those things you hope can carry over. Some of the play that they had was exactly the level of play that you'd like to see them with offensively and defensively. So let's hope that they can carry it over. But again, to say I know exactly what's going to happen, that would be a total fabrication on my part.
JD, you mentioned the Pelicans were a little shorthanded. Zion Williamson didn't participate in any of those 3 scrimmage games, but it allowed a lot of opportunity for a lot of other players on this Pelican squad. What stood out most to you in those 3 scrimmage games?
I thought the bench played really well. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Frank Jackson, I thought those guys played extremely well in those scrimmages and got some valuable playing time because, you know, the minutes might shrink as the season resumes. So you hope that they're able to take advantage of that if they get back on the floor. I thought Nico Melli showed up pretty well. He's the starter in Zion's place, and I thought he played pretty well. Of course, when Drew Holiday was on the court, when Lonzo Ball was on the court, they played well. J.J. Redick was an absolute stud in the final scrimmage, scoring 20 points in the third quarter. So those things really jump off me. But the young guys, it was good to see them get some minutes. It was good to see them be productive in those minutes.
JD, we just took a look at the 8 seeding games remaining for the Pelicans. Which one of those games stands out the most to you?
Well, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to give you 2. The first one would be the second game. That's the one against the Clippers because the Clippers are a team that's going to be a bit shorthanded. Maybe Montrezl Harrell will not be playing for him in that game. And also we know that Lou Williams won't be playing in that game. He's going to be a DNP MC and did not play Magic City. So that helps the Pelicans in that game if they've got to play a shorthanded Clippers team. Because the Clippers are a formidable team. And who knows, they might even rest a guy or 2 in that game. We don't know the situation, but to get them a little bit shorthanded, that could be to the Pelicans' benefit. The other game will be the next game, and that's the one against Memphis, because Memphis is the team immediately ahead of the Pelicans in the standings. And so you get a chance to make some hay head-to-head against that Memphis team. And the Pelicans match up well against Memphis, really beat the brakes off of them a couple of times in this season. So you hope that that's something else that will be able to carry over. It seems to be a good matchup for the Pelicans, so you want to see them be able to take advantage and move up in the standings, creep a little bit closer to Memphis.
You know, JD, before that Clippers game, I think I'm going to have some wings. If you had any flavor of wings at your disposal, what's your flavor of choice, my friend?
You know, people say lemon pepper, and I'm plain. Especially if you do them right. You know,
Plain?
Yeah, just plain. I don't, need all this stuff all over my fingers and whatnot. And you wash your hands so much now anyway, so that doesn't help either. So I'm just, I'm regular. I'm regular. There's nothing wrong with regular.
All right, I'm honey barbecue all the way. I'm just going to have to disagree with you on that one, JD.
Well, you always like the fancy stuff, so that's what you do.
All right, before we get into tonight's game, let's take a look back at the last game, the last scrimmage for the Pelicans, where they defeated the Milwaukee Bucks 124-103. Now, the starters played a little bit more than they had in the first two games, but that's to be expected when you're playing one of the best teams in the NBA right now. JJ Redick led the team in the second half, scoring 20 points in the third quarter. Let's go ahead and look at these highlights from that game.
New Orleans taking on the Milwaukee Bucks in the late game on Monday at the campus of Disney, and Chris Middleton drive to the basket, an underrated part of his game. Brandon Ingram now on the other end to Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday so calm, just pump fakes, creates the space, and knocks down the shot. Later in the second, it's the MVP Giannis taking Drew one-on-one to the basket, finishes with the finger roll, and the Bucks up by 8 at that point. Then Holiday continuing to lead. Shoots a nice little fadeaway over Brook Lopez. You got a fadeaway over Brook Lopez. Milwaukee, though, up by 3 at the half. Giannis bypasses the defenders here. Watch him just work, go right up and under, and stuff that one. Oh, huge jam. Later, it's Lonzo Ball getting it done on both ends of the floor. Spin, patience, lefty lay-in. That's all fundamental and well done. We're tied at 62 apiece. Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Nice little move here. Pelicans start to pull away as he punctuates. Then, nice dime to Jackson Hayes. He finishes strong. JJ Redick, the top scorer for the Pelicans. They get a big win, 124-103.
JD, we just saw highlights from the Pelicans' last scrimmage against the Milwaukee Bucks. They won that one 124-103. What stood out to you about the Pelicans in that game, maybe more so than the other two games?
Well, first thing, they fell into a hole. The initial two scrimmages, they led pretty much wire to wire, but they fell behind 11-0 against the best team record-wise in the NBA and were able to crawl out of that. So that really kind of stood out. And then the fact that they were able to do so against, to me, for my money, the best defensive team in the NBA that was playing its major players. Giannis Antetokounmpo was on the floor. Brook Lopez was on the floor. Kyle Korver was on the floor. Chris Middleton, their second All-Star, was on the floor. So, and those guys played heavier minutes than the Pelicans starters. So I thought they really took it to them. It was another game where the Pelicans bench really shone. And they did that in all three scrimmages, and particularly JJ Redick, who, he couldn't make a shot in the first half. I think he was 0 for 5 from the field, maybe 0 for 3 from 3. And then all of a sudden in the third quarter, he strapped the team to his back and carried them in that quarter. They scored 40. He scored his entire 20 in the game in that quarter. So those things were really encouraging for the Pelicans because they did it against a good team that was playing its best players. Those are the things that you can take away from it, scrimmage or not, because in that third scrimmage, I think both teams wanted to get a good taste in their mouth going into the real games.
Well, you saw JJ's shirt as he arrived to the Orlando bubble, shooters shoot, and he absolutely believed that. JD, how important is a guy like JJ Redick coming off of the bench for this Pelicans squad?
Well, I think he's critical because he stretches the floor. And in today's NBA, you've got to have guys who space the floor, and especially if you're the Pelicans and you're going to have Zion Williamson on the floor because he operates in the paint. He's the second leading paint scorer in the NBA, so we know Zion is going to be around the rim. Well, you can't have congestion in the lane. You can't have everybody able to sag in on him and really double or triple team him. And we saw Milwaukee able to do that during some times when they played the Pelicans. That second time, they were able to really compress and squeeze down in the lane because the Pelicans weren't making threes. Well, if you got a JJ Redick on the floor, even if he's not making it, you still have to respect him defensively, and that still spreads the floor and allows some creation from other players. So he is absolutely critical. And along those lines, I'd also say Nico Melli will be critical because another floor spacer. You've got to have guys who are able to make those outside shots. And even if they can't make them, they've got to be a threat to make them, to force the defense to come out and defend them.
All right, let's switch gears to tonight's game. It's time for our squad goals presented by Zatarans. JD, each time the Pelicans have played the Jazz, it has been a heavyweight match, especially watching Brandon Ingram go against Donovan Mitchell. I feel like I could watch those highlights forever. What are your keys to the game tonight for the Pelicans as they go against the Jazz?
Well, the Pels are going to have to guard the three because Utah is so proficient at it. Utah, before the break, was shooting 38.3% from three-point range as a team. That was the best in the NBA. So you have to go out and you have to guard them and you have to hopefully keep the percentage down. And also you got to make Rudy Gobert, their center, their all-star center, play defense. And by that, I mean you got to get him moving around. You got to get him in some pick-and-roll situations, hopefully to get him away from the basket because he's such a great shot blocker or shot changer. You need to get him away from the rim. Utah only allows 46 points a game in the paint. The Pels only score 49 points a game in the paint, so that'll be about even, but the Pels need to get to that average, and the way to do that is to get Rudy Gobert away from the rim again, get him in some pick-and-roll situations, and maybe that's where Nico Melli also helps out because when he comes in to play the center, he's around the three-point line. Gobert does not like to extend that far defensively, so there should be open looks for Melli if he's on the floor. And we also know he doesn't like to play the pick and roll very much. He likes to just kind of play free safety in the lane, so you can get him in those situations, and hopefully they're able to score off of it. And the last one I go with, I call it, spider web, and that's Donovan Spider Mitchell from Utah, the Utah guard. The Pelicans probably need to keep him in check. He's averaged 34 a game in the 3 previous games against the Pelicans, so he's been able to run wild. But here is the caveat to that. Jrue Holiday didn't play in 2 of those games. So you've got an elite defender going against Donovan Mitchell, and Jrue Holiday usually steps up to these challenges. He'll need to for them to be successful because Mitchell can drop a lot of points on you. He scored 40-plus points in that last game against the Pelicans when Brandon Ingram needed to score 49 for the Pels to get a win. Well, Jrue Holiday will not allow him, I don't believe, to get another 40. So hopefully Jrue can keep him in the 20 to 25-point range, something manageable and reasonable.
All right, we'll hear more from JD in just a bit, but now it's time to hear from the team. It's time for our Sound Up presented by Beats by Dre.
You know me, I want to hoop. That's just how I am. I'm never going to change. I'm going to want to hoop. As simple as that.
He puts our team at full strength. We're a lot better with them than we are without them. We know that. So just having them back, to start the games back up, is great for us.
And let's be honest. He's one of those generational players that can do a lot of things, and we would like to have him.
Zion being here and then not being here, having dealt with that during the season, maybe we're just a little bit used to that right now. But obviously, we're looking forward to getting the big fella back and keep this thing rolling.
I could play the whole game. I'm just a hooper. I don't know nobody that's going to say, no, I can only play 10, 15 minutes. Nah, I'll play the whole game if I have to. I'm just a hooper.
The game against Utah is going to be a completely different game. The intensity level is going to be much, much higher. But I think our guys are ready. I think they're confident.
We'll take every game like it's a playoff game. We can't start slow out the gate. We just got to go 110% every game.
Yeah, we know we don't have no time, to warm up. We got to win as many games as we can in these next 8. So we try to make the practice as game-like as possible. And I thought that's prepared us for, the scrimmages, and it's going to also prepare us for the games that we need to win.
And I think we can come out here and surprise a lot of people. As long as we stay together as a team, continue to play hard, and just stick to the one goal, and that's to make the playoffs.
Great stuff there. It is time now to bring in John DeShazier for one of our favorite segments, Twitter Takeover, powered by Chevron. JD, I have 4 questions for you here. The first one comes from John. What, if any, role will Zion have in his first game back?
Yep, John, great question. I'm going to put on my Karnak, the Magnificent hat here. Great name also. And I'll tell you, I have no idea, John. I think he's going to play, but I don't know if he's going to play extensively. He did not play in any of these scrimmages. I know he's in basketball shape, but being in basketball shape and being in NBA basketball shape two totally different things. My guess would be maybe 20 to 25 minutes because I do believe he's going to play, but I don't think you can have him in the 33, 35-minute range. But that really is spitballing. I have no idea. It's supposed to be a game time decision. I do believe he's going to play. I just don't think it will be heavy minutes.
All right, this next one comes from Juan Lopez. Besides Memphis, who is the most challenging team for the Pelicans in fighting for the 8th seed?
That's easy for me, Juan. That's Portland because they have Damian Lillard, and Damian Lillard is a lethal weapon. You get him in these situations, a compressed schedule where he's really hungry and his team's really hungry. And Portland is healthier than they've ever been this season. So now you've got them pretty much at full strength. They could be a team that can make some noise here. That's going to be difficult for the Pelicans to hold off because the Pelicans aren't in a situation where they can lose the game and say, well, we've got 15 more to – no, this is a sprint, a dead sprint. And really, these are playoff games for the Pelicans right now. So Memphis is Portland is the team that I'm most concerned about that's right neck and neck kind of with the Pelicans.
Yeah, it seems like we went from preseason to pre-playoffs to then hopefully playoffs. All right, this next one's from Jason. With Nikhil's scrimmage success, any chance he gets more time during these seeding games?
Well, he's another guy who benefited from the suspension, actually, because he had fractured his wrist. Now he's healthy. He played well in the scrimmages, and he very well could get some extended minutes. Now, I don't know, because the Pelicans' rotation at guard can be pretty heavy. You've got Drew Holiday and Lonzo Ball as your starters. You know that Josh Hart can play minutes at the guard position. You know that J.J. Redick is going to come in and play minutes at the guard position. So it will be difficult, but a lot of it might depend on whether or not Josh Hart's playing a little bit of small forward, or whether or not Josh Hart's playing a little bit of the 4 position if the Pelicans go really small. So, you know, it could depend on that. And you have to also factor in Frank Jackson played extremely well in the scrimmages, and he's a little bit more seasoned player than Nikhil. So he played well enough. But I don't know in this situation if you can have him out there for extended minutes. Now, when you're talking about, again, a compressed schedule where you're playing so many games in a limited amount of days, the depth will help. So eventually, he's going to play. I just don't know if it's going to be in this first one. I don't know how many minutes he'll get in this first one.
It was great to see Nikhil's confidence grow so much, especially since we've been back. All right, this next one is from, I believe, Katie. I apologize, Katie, if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Where does Ja fall in our rotation, JD?
You know, that's another difficult one because you've got Derek Favors as your starter. You've got Nico Melli as his primary backup. And there just aren't a lot of minutes to be had at that center position. Again, could be a situation where compressed schedule, a lot of games in a few amount of days where the depth will help because, you know, you can't run Fave out there for, 32 minutes a game and you're playing, in rapid succession. And there might be some situations where Nico Melli just, doesn't have it that day. He might not play well. And the matchup might point to having Ja out there on the field, Jahlil Okafor. So, there are some matchups where it'll be beneficial to have him on the floor. Can the Pelicans get to those matchups? Because, you don't want him out there playing against a center who's going to be running around the perimeter. You want him mostly in the paint offensively and defensively. So if the Pelicans can get in those situations, you could see him on the floor a little bit. But, again, there aren't a lot of minutes to be had when you've got 2 guys there. And I forget Jackson Hayes. I completely and totally forgot about him. I feel ashamed of myself, Katie. So now you're talking about 3 guys in that rotation at the center spot. So it's going to be difficult for Ja to get minutes there.
Nice job, as always, JD. All right, let's go ahead and check in with the Pelicans to see just how they're staying safe inside the NBA bubble. In this version of the Bubble Beat, we'll check in with team physician Dr. Andrew Gottschalk to see just how the team is staying safe.
Here we are, inside the NBA bubble in Orlando, Florida. Under quarantine, in Quarantown. We want to show you a behind-the-scenes look at the extraordinary measures being used down here in the bubble to keep both athletes and staff safe. On arriving in Orlando, we were immediately tested for COVID-19 and ushered to a hotel room where we spent about 36 hours away from the world. During those 36 hours, we were tested again. When both of these tests were negative, we were allowed into the bubble. And now, Every day inside Quarantown, several medical checkpoints need to be cleared in order for a player or staff to access the campus. First, we undergo repeat tests for the virus every single day. We're tested in the evening, with the results reported in the following morning. How do we get our test results? With an elegant, easy-to-use app on our phone. The app also asks us daily if we have any symptoms of COVID-19, like cough, body ache, headache, or loss of taste or smell. There's even more. Every player and staff member is given his or her own medical kit. In the med kit is a smart thermometer. We take our temperature every day, and the result is fed via Bluetooth into our app. Remember, a fever can be a sign of COVID-19. Also in the med kit is a pulse oximeter, which is an instrument that measures both your heart rate and the amount of oxygen in your blood. Just like with the thermometer, this data is entered via Bluetooth into the app. Each of us also wears a magic band, which is a computerized bracelet. It allows us to access properties on campus as well as acts as our room key. There are several health and security checkpoints scattered around the campus. If a person has not passed all of that day's health checks, he or she will be alerted by the bracelet when trying to pass on through one of these checkpoints. Finally, each of us is equipped with an Aura Smart Ring. This ring purportedly uses heart rate, respiratory rate, and body temperature to assess our activity levels, as well as how we sleep at night. If this sounds like an extraordinary health system, it is. This tiered process of medical checkpoints in the bubble is one of a kind. No other system on Earth monitors for the virus this carefully. The world is still knee-deep in the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's scary for everyone. But the New Orleans Pelicans family is in an exciting place right now, and that's a wonderful thing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Education is the best medicine.
Very thorough and groundbreaking stuff there going on in the NBA bubble. Thanks so much for educating us on that, Dr. G. All right, we are just a moment away from tip-off as we begin these seeding games as the Pelicans take on the Utah Jazz. Of course, you can watch tonight's game on Fox Sports New Orleans. You can, of course, listen in on ESPN Radio New Orleans, 100.3 FM, or listen in on the Pelicans app. All right, it is time for our Who's Got Next, presented by Hancock Whitney Bank. JD, as we look ahead to the LA Clippers, the Pelicans' second game in these 8 seeding games, what are you looking for out of the Pelicans as they take on the Clippers?
Well, I hope they're able to take advantage of the absence of Lou Williams and possibly Montrezl Harrell. Really digs into the depth of the Clippers. They are one of the most quality deep teams in the league. If they don't have those two guys, Lou Williams is a 3-time NBA six-man award winner. And Montrezl Harrell has been a menace against the Pelicans. So if those two guys don't play, that puts a heavier burden on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Now, are those two guys capable of that? Of course they are. But if you're the Pelicans, your depth might play into a victory or at least success in that game. Again, not having Lou Williams, we already know they won't have him. So that's going to be huge enough for the Pelicans. Can they take advantage of it? And that's the team, the Clippers, that's able to transition offense to defense, or defense to offense, because they've got two of the elite defenders in the league, and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So the Pelicans really need to protect the basketball, as always, but against a team like that, you can't give them extra free opportunities and runouts and layups. Those are things that the Pelicans will have to protect against the Clippers.
All right, JD, insightful as always. That'll do it for me and you. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the call. Have a great call, and we'll hear you on the radio.
Well, we'll hear you too. So we're all looking for a great call and hopefully a big win.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Pelicans Preview presented by Smoothie King. Don't forget to tune into the game tonight as your Pelicans begin their seeding play against the Utah Jazz at 5:30 on Fox Sports New Orleans. A quick reminder, we'll be doing these Pelicans Preview all seeding game long and hopefully into the playoffs right here on Pelicans.com and your Pelicans app. On Saturday, before the Pelicans take on the Los Angeles Clippers, I'll be joined by Daniel Sallerson, radio studio host for the New Orleans Pelicans. All right, let's get fired up for tonight's game, Pelicans fans.
This is going to be fun to watch tonight. To Jackson Hayes for the two-hand flush. Nice take. Redding right to the top for three. Count it. Wide open three. Buried. He's going to shoot, baby. No, he did. He did.
Took it away. Left hand. Jackson Hayes.
Athletic Frank Jackson.
We're putting on a clinic.
They walk away from Ingram. Makes him pay.
Good job. Oh, my goodness.